What's up, guys? Xavier Elon here. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and hit that like button as it helps YouTube algorithm. So today we're going to be going over Google App Engine connecting to Datastore. So if you go, while you selected your project, you go over here. We're going to connect to Datastore. So I already connected. We're actually going to use Firestore. It has more features. It's really easy. You just click a button saying connect. But then we need code to actually set it up. So that's what we're going to do today. Shouldn't be a long video. It's the second part in the series for the REST API. So let's create our Datastore file. And so we need the project ID. So if we do gcrowd projects list, we get the project ID right here. So this is how Google Cloud knows which data store to connect to. So project ID equals and then we need to basically like import Datastore. So this is, and we also need to install it. So so let's just npm install it real quick so we don't run into errors later. So you can, the way I learned to do all this is just reading their documentation. It's all online. Google actually has pretty good documentation, which isn't a surprise. I mean, it's Google. And lastly, we're just going to want to export these functions that we're going to be using. So this one's called Datastore, and we're just setting it equal to Datastore. So it's setting it equal to the module basically. And another function we're going to export is .datastore, and we're going to create a new Datastore, and we're going to tell it to connect to our project ID. So again, this is very specific to Datastore. You just find it out by reading the documentation, passing the project ID, so now it knows we're using which project Datastore we're using. And we're going to use from Datastore, and this is how we get the item or entity. So we'll call it item here, and we get it by ID. So we tell it to, we're going to set the ID equal to, we're going to go into the Datastore, grab the key, and then from there we're going to grab the ID. So we have the ID set, and then we just want to return the item. So we're going to use this later in our program. Then let's just create a functions file where we're going to store the functions so we can export them, because we're going to have to use it in multiple files. I'm just going to create a rockets file. So this is, I'm going to have rocket entities. So let's I'm just going to copy all of this, and we don't need path. That's just for the index file. And I think, I don't know what else we need right now. Oh, we need to import so our Datastore. So const ds equals and that we should be good. We need to Datastore equals ds.datastore. So that's setting Datastore equal to, it's reaching into our file and grabbing the Datastore function. So it's grabbing, where did the data, oh there it is. It's grabbing this function, and we'll need that later to store stuff in our Datastore. So, and then we just need to set up a constant key. So this is how it knows which entity we're getting. It'll make sense later when we start reaching into our data store. And so next up is we're just going to write our routes for rockets. So a route is just telling us, it's basically the URL. It's telling us what to do. So in our REST API we have get, post, patch, put, and delete. So post is we're just going to basically create a rocket, and here we're going to, so this is how you write it. And one thing I actually forgot to do is we need to, not index, server, we need to set up our routes. So right under here, I'm going to tell it, so if it has /rockets, then we need to use the rocket router. Actually, it could just be, I'll save us a line, require /rockets. So that's just saying if the URL has ends in rockets, to use the rockets file. When we use Postman, I'll be able to explain this better. So let's write this real quick. Basically, I'm not going to set any, I'm just going to do this really simple. Recreated. And last thing, we need to import our functions file. So yeah, now we're gonna have a function in our functions file called post_rocket, and it's just going to take rec dot, we're gonna have a name. So in the body, we're gonna have a name, rec.body.price, and then we're gonna just do a dot then key, arrow function. So it's just saying, and then once it posts this dot then, it will return key. So res.status, this is just telling us what status it's going to return. So in Postman, when we do that in a second, it will return a 201 status, which just means it was created successfully. We'll set, so we're going to tell it to return in JSON the ID, which we get from the key.id. The name comes from the rec.body.name, which was supplied by the user or by us. Same for the price and the weight. Alright, so that's it for that function. We could definitely add way more later. I just wanted to show you guys how we post and show you that it ends up in the actual data store. So let's just copy all of this and put it into server, or not server, functions. And rockets, I can't remember if we use it in this file. I'm pretty sure we do. So we're just gonna have a function, and remember we called it post_rocket. So we had name, weight, and price. So the first thing we want to do is set up the rocket. So all the attributes it's going to have. So we're going to have name, and it's just going to be equal to name. So same thing for all of them. And I actually think I replaced, these are backwards, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, price is first. So all right, so that's it for, we just created our rocket entity that we're going to put it in, and then we have this is the new one. So it's saying the key is equal to, oh, actually we forgot to grab the key from the data store. So we do key equals datastore dot key, and we need to use rockets. So I actually don't think this will even be used in this function or in this file. And so it's saying get the key for the rockets. The key is basically how it recognizes that entity. So we have to set up the key here. So it's saying we're going to say the key is the key and the data is the rocket. So it's going to put all the rocket into the data for this new rocket. It's stored in the key. And then we're almost done. We just need to insert it into the actual function. So we're going to use the data store again, dot insert. So this is the data store function. It's going to insert a new entity, and we're going to pass it the new rocket. So it has the key and the data already. And then we have then with an arrow key or an arrow function, and so we just want to data store dot save. The key is the key, or actually I think we just need to return key. That should work, I believe. Let's test it out. I might have done it wrong, actually. Not 100% sure. So let's open Postman. I'm sure, hopefully you guys have used Postman before. We actually need to, let's see if we can even run this. JS. So it needs a middleware function. We must be missing something. I think we're missing this body parser. Oh, you know what? Module dot source equals the router. That's probably it. Yeah, that was it. So basically our there. So this is our program so far. This is just the front end. But if we go over here, create a new function or new collection. So in Postman, we can send requests to our API. So let's do that. So post rocket. And we want to change this to post. The URL is localhost 8080. Remember, we set it up on port 80. And we're going to want to insert a body in JSON. So we have the name is Falcon 9 and the price, I don't know how much a Falcon 9 costs, 30 million. And the weight, $2,000 tons. I have no idea. It's probably more. So let's try and send this real quick. Cannot post. Oh, localhost 8080. So remember, we have to post functions. Post. Okay, it's not a function. Let me see why that is so. Functions require functions. Oh, I'm not exporting it. Is that how you do it? Module.export equals so let's try it again. And it has unhandled promise rejection. So let's try and figure out why that is. Oh, I haven't I forgot to export. Let's see what our Google application credentials are. I set this up in the last video, but yeah, so that's completely incorrect. So remember, we have to export this, copy, wait, and let's check if that's right. And now let's try, we should be, that's what authorizes our connection to Datastore. Starting the server again, and boom. All right, so it says it posted. If we check in Datastore, it should show up. Let's see. So let's refresh this. Yeah, so there's our rocket. It's in our Datastore, and we could also real quick, if we just wanted to like do another get the rocket, so get rocket equals function ID, and we just do, so we do the key again. That's basically going to do this in every function almost when we need to get it. So we want to do get that with rockets, and we're going to want to parse the int. So we're going to want to parse the ID, and it's 10 numbers long. So there's that. And then we just want to return datastore.get key. So it's just going to return it. It's retrieving the rocket with the ID inside the rockets entity. So let's save that. And in rockets, we can do our get function now, or get route, sorry. So same thing. So even though this is slash, because we set it up in here, app.use/rockets, it's saying require rockets. So that's, it's not actually slash, it's just rockets. Slash is pointed towards index.html. So that's like our home page basically. And so this one's really quick, short, I believe. So actually we have to pass the ID, and so our ID, let's get the ID is in the parameters, the request parameters. So that's how we get it. We'll set ID equal to that. And then we just want to call our getRocket function, pass in the ID, and then we do .then. So it's saying after that we want to, and it's going to return what we're going to call rocket. We have arrow function, so now we can access the rocket. So basically I'm only going to set it up for a success case. So 200. Normally we would check for errors. We can do that later. I just don't want this video to get too long. So if we go over here, and we need to save this, add request. So let's get the rocket. All right, sweet. So and we need the ID. So remember, it's in the parameters. So if we copy the ID, and let's actually create a new environment. So it'll be easier. Let's do rocket ID. Yeah. And let's do app URLs just to save time, so I don't have to keep re-entering it. Fuck, it didn't save. And rocket ID again. Alright, so let's see if that worked. I guess you have to click add. So now it's in there. So if we set that environment variable, we can just use /rocket ID. You do double curly braces to access the environment and variables. So we can do app URL to kind of save time. Oh, and we're in the wrong request. So right here, and cannot read property of undefined. ID. So we did something wrong. Get rocket ID part. So let's see. 16. So it looks like, I'm not sure. So it is the right ID. That's weird. Alright, get function. I'm not sure why that is. Oh, did I forget the rockets again? No, I have the rockets. That's so weird. Because it's not even reading the ID that's being passed in. Do I need to save it? Still doesn't work. It's not reading it at all. Property ID. So let's just do some debugging. So that's weird. Let's make sure. Oh, duh. Man, that was stupid. Sorry, guys. I need to save this as well. So now it should work. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so there we can retrieve it in Postman as well. So that's all I'm going to do for this video. In the next video, we can start setting up, we'll create our user entities. and we can basically protect the rockets so that only the user who owns them can access them. So we'll do that in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys.